Welcome to the Apple a Day podcast. My name is Michelle Apples. If you don't know me, I am the founder of the Christian Singles Hub, a space where Christian singles can be equipped with the resources they need to grow towards greatness, put their faith in action, and to date with purpose. Healthy relationships only come from healthy individuals. So join me every Wednesday as we interview some incredible guests and give you all the wisdom you need to steward your singleness better. We hope you enjoy the show, and don't forget to check out our website at thechristiansingleshub.com. Welcome back to another episode of an Apple a Day podcast. My name is Michelle Apples, and I am your host. So glad that you guys are here. If you haven't tuned in, maybe this is your first time ever tuning in to an Apple a Day podcast. I'm the founder of the Christian Singles Hub, which is a business I started back in 2020 to create more spaces for Christian singles. So been at it for a couple years now, currently on a full US tour with my husband. I got married last year, and our first year of marriage, we are going across the country to host gatherings and meetups and community events for Christian singles. So we are so excited. We have our second annual summer camp coming up, and we're so excited about it. If you want to attend, go to thechristiansingleshub.com and find out all the details about everything we have going on. We have events. We're excited to be launching more in-person events in local communities. So we're hiring on event hosts in local communities to create gatherings. So we're so excited to see where the Christian Singles Hub is heading, the direction we're going in, and we would love to have you a part of it. You have a seat at our table, whether it's online or virtual events, whether that's in-person events, or whether that's attending our annual summer camp or any of our other retreats going on. We have so much in store for you all. Today, I am doing a dating Q&A. You guys asked, and I am going to answer all of your questions that you have. So I'm super excited. We try to do these once every while so that we can answer your questions. So yeah, just in case you guys have questions that you want answered. So let's dive in. Let's dive in. Number one, are relationships supposed to be hard and stressful? I feel like all the relationships that I've had is feels very hard. And the relationships, yes, they require work, and there is sacrifice when you get into relationship, but it shouldn't be hard and stressful to the point that you do not have peace in it. Looking for the peace of the Lord is so important in every relationship you have, but also not just taking the easy road out. We live in a day and age where there's so much instant gratification that you don't have to actually work towards things. You don't actually have to put in the time, put in the effort to really make a relationship work, because you can just go on an app and find 1,000 other people. And so you want to make sure that there's that balance of, hey, I do have peace in this, but we are navigating things that can be really hard, but also, yeah, that it's not so hard to the point where it's like toxic in your life. You have to know the balance of that, because relationships will never be just easy, because it's two completely different people that God made as individuals coming together to learn about each other, learn communication styles, learn maybe triggers that the other person has, any trauma that might have happened in that person's life. And so it is hard, and relationships shouldn't be labeled as easy, but there should always be the peace of the Lord in your relationship. With my husband and I, as an example, we can have a really frustrating day or a really frustrating moment of conversation, and then 2 seconds later be laughing, because we don't allow it to completely affect our entire life, that now we're bringing the stress into every other area of our life. We communicate about it. We might have frustrating moments, but we don't let those define a relationship. So I hope that helps. It absolutely needs to have peace in the middle of it. It's also great to just communicate that if it feels really hard and stressful, communicate to the person you're in a relationship why, but also do the work yourself to become the healthiest version of yourself. So you're walking into a relationship healthy and whole, rather than looking for someone to fulfill something that will never fulfill those areas that you need to heal in. Um, Okay, how do I make long distance relationships work? This is a question I actually get a lot about long distance relationships, and I am such a fan of long distance relationships, and I'll tell you why. I actually always thought I would have met someone that didn't live near me, but God had different plans for me. But I loved it because you got to communicate in a way that was deeper than just going on dates and not actually communicating the way you would if you have that distance apart. You get to ask hard questions, you get to learn their communication style. So it's hard, because there is a lot of communication that needs to happen and there's sacrifice that needs to happen. Obviously, someone has to travel to the other person, and that takes, yeah, sacrifice, intentionality. But I think you can really see someone's character through that. Are they willing to persevere through that? Are they willing to put in the work? Are they willing to communicate? Are they willing to do those things? Because then when you get together, it's so much easier because you've already dealt with all of that. So I think relationships, long distance relationships, are great. Um, I think it's setting healthy boundaries, making sure you communicate things really early. Things like finances, you might not talk about at the beginning of the relationship, but if one person has to travel to the other, you need to talk about that. You need to talk about boundaries. You need to talk about finances. You have to talk about level of sacrifice each one is willing to take, communication styles, things that you may not talk about for months down the road with someone in person. You get to ask those hard questions and communicate that upfront. So don't give up hope. I think long distance relationships can absolutely work. It just takes time, it takes effort, it takes work, on both of you. And so you'll easily be able to see whether or not the other person is willing to put in that work. um, how do I know if a relationship is right for me? Um, I think you don't really know that at first because, again, you're two human beings that are so different from one another and you're learning about each other. And so I think you know that when you sense a peace in it, when you sense an alignment of you both walking in the same direction, when you sense an equally yoked ness there, and that you both are walking towards the Lord. If obviously that's your desire. If you listen to this and you're not a Christian and that's not your desire, then so be it. But if you're listening to this and you're a Christian single and that is a value that you hold close to you, I mean, my biggest deal breaker was I needed someone hungry for the Lord, because if he wasn't pushing me towards the Lord, he was taking me away from him. And that was just one sacrifice I wasn't willing to give up. So I think you start to know as you start to develop, as you start to ask questions, as you start to know character and morals and values alignment, and making sure you're equally yoked. So don't um yeah, don't just rub something away completely before you really know. I think that is a big problem we have in this day and age of dating, is that people are just so disposable to everyone. Because I mean, like I said, you can go on an app and find 1,000 other people. So why do you have to spend the time getting to know the person in front of you, when you have 1,000 more on at your fingertips? And I think that's such a shame, because a lot of great people are getting overlooked because people aren't giving them the time of day to really get to know each other. I know a lot of great godly men that do not get the time of day, and that was my husband's story. But I also can understand, because I work in this industry, that I've met a lot of amazing godly women who don't get the time of day. And so, yeah, just making sure the person in front of you isn't disposable, getting to know them on a human level, getting to know their character and their morals and their values, and actually understand if this person is for you, rather than assuming it after just a half an hour conversation or a first date. Um, how do I know if she is the one? how do I know if it's God ordained? How do I know if this is the person God has for me? And some people, I know a lot of people that have felt the Lord press that on them, that this person was for them. That wasn't my experience. And I think that is a beautiful thing when God does that, but I don't think that's always the story. I think sometimes God allows you to choose. He allows you to choose, and this is why a lot of relationships don't work. Is we get free will, we get choice to make choices, good or bad. So I would say, how do I know if he, she, or is the one? Do they honor the Lord? Is there an alignment? Are you walking towards the kingdom? Are you walking with each other better than when you're without? A big reason I knew that my husband was the one for me was because there was just so much alignment. He literally pushed me to be a better person every single day. And I had never found that before. I never found someone who was so hungry after the Lord, but really like just was there to like help me, encourage me, empower me to do all of the things that God has called me to do. And that for me was such a confirmation that this was the man God had for me. And there was just such a peace that truly, truly it transcended all understanding, that I never experienced before in any other relationship. And that peace is what led me home. And I always said that, like, follow the peace will lead you home. And my husband, he is home to me, and it's such a beautiful thing. So I always include God in those conversations, in those in your prayer. Ask him, open every door that is from you and close every door that isn't. I've had a lot of confirmation that people weren't the right one. Whether it be, I had a lot of dreams of, like, for example, like someone would show interest, and I literally immediately dreamed that they were cheating on me. And it was like just a recognition of, like, this person isn't right for me, because there's already chaos there. And so look for those signs. And I think too, don't be naive. Don't it's so often people, like, if someone's in a relationship, I've seen this over and over and over 1,000 times, is like they know that that is not the relationship for them, but they still continue because maybe it's comfortable, maybe you don't want to hurt someone's feelings, maybe you think they'll change, all of those things. But I think truly we know, deep down we know. I've been through in a lot of different relationships before I met my husband, that I knew they weren't the one. I knew it, and I should have acted on it sooner, but I had made every excuse. Oh, well, they're a good godly man. Oh, I have a lot of fun with them. They're a godly man who treats me right. Doesn't mean it's a godly man for you. And so I think that's important, is making sure that they're the one for you, not just a good godly man. um yeah, that's so good. Let's see. Okay. Next question. What does a healthy relationship look like? Oh, this is a good one. I think a healthy relationship is someone who leads you to the foot of the cross, not the foot of the bed. Someone who makes you feel safe, loved, appreciated, and want to give you these things in return. Someone who respects you, respects who you are, and wants to hear what you have to say, not someone who just shuts you down, or like makes you feel like less than, or like um yeah, just like the littles you. They communicate and answer your questions that you may have. They support your dreams, but they also challenge you. They make you feel good about yourself. And again, I think it goes back to, they honor Christ, and truly like want that honor to be in the center of your relationship. Is so important, because if they don't have that, or if they don't do that, then what's going to happen 10 years down the road when marriage can get boring, or stagnant, is like, are they just going to walk away? And so finding someone who's steadfast as well, who's going to walk you through the good, the bad, the ugly, is so important. How do I become a better listener in dating? Really, the Bible says, like, be slow to speak and quick to listen. It's so important that we get curious about each other rather than just interview to see if someone like fills this list that we have. Get curious and then actually listen and respond. The amount of dates I had been on that people just didn't listen to a word I said was just crazy. And so we need to be better listeners. Ask good questions, be curious about people, but also slow to speak, quick to listen and actually what other people have to say. I think that's so important. Um, how can meaningful conversations improve my dating life? Good communication is the basis of a healthy relationship. That's how you learn about each other. That's how you get curious about each other. That's how you build intimacy with each other. And I'm not just talking about physical intimacy. I love that my husband and I created such an emotional intimacy and a spiritual intimacy before we ever experienced a physical intimacy. And it was so beautiful. It's because we asked questions, we got curious, we communicated with each other's, whether that was strengths or weaknesses, triggers, trauma, anything. We truly, and we still do, we're still learning about each other every day. And so being able to ask those questions, I remember our third date, we played a game called We're Not Really Strangers, and it really opened the door to ask more meaningful, more deeper conversations, allow for more vulnerability in our relationship, and it truly helped just propel our relationship so much more. Okay. All right, last question of the day. Should you have sex before marriage? Should I agree to it? And how do you bring this up? So if you are truly a Christian who is following the Lord, following the things that he has in your life, you know that he's not withholding sex from you. He's actually preventing you from a lot of hurt, a lot of things that can happen when you have sex outside of marriage. Sex inside of marriage is such a safe place. Sex outside of marriage causes a lot of chaos and confusion. And so, yeah, I just want to encourage you, seek the Lord about this, because truly, I think you have to come in from a point of view of not that he's withholding from you, but that he is protecting you, because that changes your mindset, changes your perspective. I think it's important to wait. My husband and I waited until we were married, which was such a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful thing to, again, be able to uh, build intimacy that wasn't physical before we ever added in that physicality, intimacy into our relationship. And it was such a beautiful gift. And so, would just encourage you to seek the Lord on this, because it's a truly a beautiful thing to wait for marriage and to just walk in that purity before the Lord. And purity is not just sex; it's purity of mind, of body, of soul, of spirit. To come in, there's a verse in the Bible that says, "Blessed are the pure in heart, because they will see God." And I think that's really how we see God, is by coming to Him with a pure heart towards everything. And that truly means, like, oh, I didn't want to hinder my husband's spiritual walk. And so for me, that was a big thing, is I don't want anyone to hinder me, and I don't want to hinder him. I want him to be everything that God is calling him to be. And so, yeah, I think it's important you seek the Lord on this and you talk to him about it, but just know that he's not withholding anything from you. He's actually protecting you. And so I think it's important to wait, but you need to come up with your own convictions of what you feel the Lord is calling you to do, because you're never going to just take my word for it. And truly, I think that's the beauty of the Lord, is he'll reveal to you his heart. He'll reveal to you the father heart of God and why he asks us to do things and withhold things until a specific time. And so, yeah, just praying for you on this journey, and wishing you the very best. Thanks so much for answering or asking questions. So glad to be answering them for you. And we hope to see you guys real soon. Thanks so much for watching and tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Bye. Thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of An Apple a Day. If you liked today's episode, why don't you go like it, share it, subscribe, maybe even send it to a friend, and don't forget to review us. It helps so much. We look forward to seeing you next week, same time, same place on An Apple a Day podcast.